the people, they tend to buy stuff when there are testimonials, when there is risk reversal in place. And that became the whole risk factor, which is if you can solve the objections, if you can bring up the objections and reduce the objections, well, what you've done now is very effectively reduced risk. But then if you have testimonials, then you're reducing the risk further. What I found along the way was that objections and testimonials were flip sides of the same coin. And by this, what I mean is that people have objections. So for instance, they say, a 3-day workshop is too long and I can't get away from my business. Well, the testimonial needs to match that objection. So it's not just, okay, let's have objections, let's answer the objections, let's have testimonials, and they're standalone. No, they're absolutely connected.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing. And you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's great to be back with another episode. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I trust you enjoyed our most recent interviews with Jackie Lappin of Speakertunity and the amusing Rob and Kennedy from Response Suite. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Sean D Souza from Psychotactics. As Sean describes Psychotactics, it's a come with us on this wild and wacky adventure into the world of marketing. Instead of some boring, tedious marketing theory, we'll have a rollicking time learning about customer behaviour. Sean is also host of the 3-Month Vacation podcast and author of The Brain Audit, Why Customers Buy and Why They Don't, which is a quite unique and refreshing way of exploring marketing from the customer journey point of view, with humour, with cartoons, and at the same time with very practical advice. He runs the 5000 BC membership site and also has a forthcoming book coming out called Suddenly Talented. Today's episode is brought to you by the Transformational Marketing Hub, where you'll find a host of free and exceptionally useful information to help you transform your marketing. You can access the hub by visiting innovabiz.co/VIP, very important person. Now, if you don't yet have an account, don't worry, just click on the blue Take a Peek Inside button and you can check it out and see what's there for you. As I said, it's free and it's exceptionally useful. In our discussion today, Sean talked to me about the 7 bags of the Brain Audit. We talked about adapting your products and services to the customer journey and where customers are at on that journey and with their expectations. And we talked about focusing on the outcome and the results that your customers will get as your guarantee. Without further ado then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Sean D Souza. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from Auckland in New Zealand, Sean D Souza from Psychotactics, where he looks at the world of marketing through the lens of customer behaviour. Welcome to the podcast, Sean. It's a great privilege to have you as my guest today.
It's a pleasure.
Simon Lamey, who was my guest on episode 169 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested that we interview you, Sean, and he introduced us. So a big hello to Simon. Now, Sean, you also host the 3-Month Vacation podcast, and you're the author of The Brain Audit, the book, which is on the topic of why customers buy and why they don't buy, and it looks at customer behaviour as the driver of good marketing. Now, your marketing philosophy is very focused on people, so the human-to-human interaction, as I like to call it. So I'm really looking forward to delving into all things marketing with you today. Before we start, talking about marketing and customer behavior, give us a bit of a snapshot of your background. How did you get to where you are today, and what were some of the pivotal moments in that journey?
I was a cartoonist, and that was when I got to New Zealand. And I've always considered a business to be something that you can control rather than control you. And I felt that the cartooning, easygoing as it was, it was frustrating me every time I took a break or a vacation. The advertising agency would give the job to someone else. So I'd lose money and I'd lose clients because they give it to someone else. And I just decided, okay, let me just figure out how to go about learning to do this marketing thing. Now, I'd been in advertising before. I'd been a copywriter back in India, but I don't think I'd ever done anything to do with marketing. And so I went to the library and picked up, 10 books and then 10 books. And then eventually I was picking up 30 books at a time. I don't do that anymore. I read one book very slowly now, repeatedly. But back then I had to fill the drum, as it were.
Yeah.
That's how I got into marketing. Where I didn't want to be in marketing, but I was in a networking group, and I was solving so many problems when I went to meet them that they said, you're really good at this thing called marketing. And at that point in time, I read a book called Good to Great, and it said, what can you be the best in the world at? And I was very good at cartoons. I still am. But I wanted to make a break to do something different. And now we've come full circle. We've been in marketing. Psychotactics has been going since around 2000 under a different name. We take our 3 months off, and I draw cartoons. So best of all worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, but you have a lot of cartoons in use in your website with Psychotactics, and certainly on the podcast as well, and on the membership site 5000 BC. So you definitely brought that unique aspect into your marketing business. I'm curious, how did you get into cartoons to start with?
I always was drawing, and this was in school as well, and no one stopped me, and people encouraged me. And then when I got to university, it was a very good way of getting people to you. I was very shy because I'd always been reading and drawing and stuff, and I would sit at the corner in the college canteen, and all the guys would go, okay, let's go and meet that girl, or let's try and speak to that girl. And I just sit in the corner and draw, and all the girls would come to me. So it was like, okay.
Got to be something in that, right?
Well, there was absolutely no downside. So I just, I don't believe in inborn talent. It's a long story there, and I prove it when I give presentations on it. You put 200 people in front of me, and from the stage in 5 minutes, I can prove that everyone can draw in 5 minutes. So the point is that no one told me that, and it was always brought about as, oh, you have the special gift, you have the special ability. And yes, over the years, I've continued to draw. I draw sometimes 4 or 5 cartoons a day. So you multiply that over the years, and you just get very good at it. But I was drawing just like people pick up the guitar or do anything. It wasn't meant to be a job or anything. If at all, I wanted to be a copywriter. By the time I was in university, I was very clear. I knew which company I wanted to be the copywriter in, and I knew who my idol was and who I wanted to be, say, in 10 years from that point.
No, it's interesting. So who was your copywriting idol?
Well, it was in India. It was a guy called Chris De Rosario, and there was this advertising agency called Gray, and he was the creative director. So
okay,
yeah,
fascinating. So, but then you ended up in advertising and drawing cartoons, and then transitioned into marketing.
Well, it's how I got into advertising in the first place. I went to Leo Burnett, which is the agency I worked with, and that was the first agency. And I showed them my cartoon book, and the creative director said, there's a big difference between cartoons and copywriting. And I said, yes, I know that, but here's the deal. I'll work for you for 1 month, and if you like me, you keep me, and if I like you, I'll stay. And so, yeah, I made this not hard to ignore deal, but I think she had some she had pity on me. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. What I really like about the Brain Audit is that you bring in the uniqueness of the cartoons, and you bring in quite a lot of ideas to it. But the underlying philosophy is, as I said at the beginning, based on the human-human interaction and the customer's buying strategies or decision-making strategies. But at the same time, it's not just an idea or a concept, it's a total system. So it goes through each of the steps. And I'm fascinated how you came up with those steps. So how did you, because there's about 8 of them, right? So
7. Yeah, technically 7. They're called 7 red bags. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you come up with just 7 as opposed to, say, 10 or only 5?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I didn't, a lot of people will look at 7 as this magic figure. I didn't set out to do that at all. It was just, I started looking at purchase decisions. So to begin with, I didn't understand that problems, or in the Brain Audit, I talk about the problem, the solution, and the target profile. Now, the problem being, what problem does the client have in the first place? And I didn't realize that when I first started going out to marketing meetings, to networking meetings. I didn't realize that people were looking to solve a problem. It seems very obvious now, but whenever you ask someone what they do, they usually tend to give you their solution. They say, I mow lawns, or I fix computers. And they don't bring up the problem. Now, if you, instead of saying I fix computers, you say, is your computer running at half the speed than when you bought it? Immediately, I'm saying yes. And I'm thinking, oh, what? You can fix that? Whereas if you say I fix computers, the conversation goes dead.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was listening to someone's recording somewhere, and he was just in passing. He said, people go with the problem rather than the solution. And then he went on, and I sat in the car, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. And, now it's relatively common, but when I wrote the Brain Audit, I didn't find a lot of, it might have, I don't know, it might have slowed me down if I found a lot of books with this insight in mind, because most of the people were talking about how to write a solution-based headline or a solution-based whatever. And so I already knew that the solution existed. I already knew that the target audience existed. So we had now those first 3 bags, which is the problem, the solution, and the target audience. At that point in time, it was called target audience. But later on, I figured out that you can't sell to an audience. You can sell to a person, and you can find many of those same kind of people, but you can't sell to an audience. You can use an audience to get the conversation, to get an understanding of who you're speaking to, but you can never sell to an audience. And anyway, so I got those 3, and then I go, wait, every time I bring these things up, there is like this commitment problem. And so what's that commitment problem? And immediately what you see is there are objections. So, okay, how many objections do we get? And I found that there were about 5 or 6 objections that repeatedly come up in any business. Not the same ones, but for that specific business, 5 or 6 will show up. So if you go, say, if you're having a workshop, we're having a workshop in Munich in a couple of weeks. Well, the problem will be the distance, the time, the duration of the workshop, those kind of things. They won't necessarily be price or something like that. So there are objections, and then I found that the people, they tend to buy stuff when there are testimonials, when there is risk reversal in place. And that became the whole risk factor, which is if you can solve the objections, if you can bring up the objections and reduce the objections, well, what you've done now is very effectively reduced risk. But then if you have testimonials, then you're reducing the risk further. What I found along the way was that objections and testimonials were flip sides of the same coin. And by this, what I mean is that people have objections. So for instance, they say, a 3-day workshop is too long and I can't get away from my business. Well, the testimonial needs to match that objection. So it's not just, okay, let's have objections, let's answer the objections, let's have testimonials, and they're standalone. No, they're absolutely connected. And what I also found as I was talking to people, it was really good being part of this networking group because I could test it. It was like, it wasn't pre-internet, but it was very early internet. And every week there were 30 people in the room, and you could have a conversation before and during and after, and you could keep testing in your own little way without testing, just having conversations and seeing how people reacted. So I got this problem. I got this testimonials and objections, and I saw that they were the same side of the, both different sides of the same coin. And I also realized that testimonials that said you were very good, very nice, were really boring. and so we came up with the reverse testimonial, which is that, you say, I didn't want to come to your workshop in Melbourne. I had to drive 100 kilometers and leave my son behind. Well, that is a more compelling opening to a testimonial than
it talks to the objection straight away, doesn't it?
Exactly. So the objection and testimonials are in place, and then I go, okay, now we have like 2 full sections. The first is, how do you qualify yourself? That's the problem, solution, and target profile. Then we have the risk factor, which is the testimonials, the objections, and the risk reversal itself, which is some kind of guarantee or warranty that you will give. And then when you got through this entire sequence, I saw that it would still fall apart. So the customer was educated, but they would still want to know, why you and why not the next cartoonist? Why not the next copywriter? So that left only one thing, which is uniqueness. And once that was in place, it was pretty much it. Now, that's not as if to say that we stop there. For instance, when you go on a sales page, you will find far more elements. But this is the crux of what you need to understand at a ground level. And if you just run these 7 red bags, you can put together a very good sales page, a very good presentation, a very good whatever you want to do to communicate to people. These 7 red bags do the job.
So I noticed you talk a little bit about target customer, and you said you can't sell to a target audience, so you need to boil that down to one customer. So how's your approach to identifying the target customer different to what you typically find online, where they have these, to me, very heavily focused on demographics, in terms of gender and religion and age and what kind of level of education and what sort of car they drive and what sort of salary they earn and this sort of thing, which to me is kind of interesting information when you're starting to build a relationship with somebody, but not very valuable in terms of how do I talk to that person about their problems.
Right. So the problem that we had was that I already was a copywriter, so I knew which head. So there was, just to backtrack, when I started out in marketing, I was feeling a bit of imposter syndrome. It was like, I don't know that much, and so I signed up for, I don't know, quite a few courses, quite a few workshops. These were all offline. Some were 5-day events. One was in Australia, somewhere in Auckland, etc. One of them was with this very famous advertising guy. And what he did was he showed us 20 ads. And he said, so we ad by ad, and he said, tell me which one worked versus which one didn't. And I got 20 out of 20. And he said, it's a fluke. And I said, I don't think so. And he said, it's not possible because in the advertising agency, we couldn't tell. And I said, I can tell you why this is happening. And in every situation, there was the problem. In every, the ads that worked versus the ads that didn't, was the ads had a problem. But they had one more thing, which was pretty, David Ogilvy said this a long time ago in his book, Ogilvy on Advertising. And it was this guy on the farm talking in this language that everyone turned everybody off, but except to the audience. And the audience loved it. So what Ogilvy was saying back then was that the exact phraseology of the client is going to be way better than any copywriter can write. And I thought that was very interesting, that a copywriter skilled in their art and their studies and everything could not do a better job than some farm guy who and not to put any farm guy down, I'm just saying, the farm guy was writing better copy than a copywriter. And then it was proven in this specific moment when this guy said, no, we could not figure out, like you're saying, that it worked every single time. And I also met Mike something. I don't remember his exact last name now, but he was the CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi in New Zealand. And I told him this thing, and he said, nope, can't be done. You cannot, advertising is a bit science and a little bit, all of this stuff that we guess. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. It's like saying that, you sit on a chair, and every time you sit on the chair, you have to test the chair. Nobody does that. Nobody sits on a chair and goes, oh, I wonder if this chair holds my weight. There are so many different types of chairs, but you don't say, oh, I wonder if this holds my weight. Let me just test it, sit on it. And So to get back to the target profile, I realized that when a copywriter writes stuff like, they'll go, is your website not as running as well as you expected or something? And the target profile doesn't say that. The target profile says something like, I feel trapped in my own website. The developer gives me the keys to the doors that he wants, and the rest of the time I'm locked out. And you put that on a web page, and it goes boom, like everyone who gets locked out goes, that's me.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And the other headline doesn't work at all. So the problem that I saw online or in other advertising was they had target audience. It's like every website owner. Well, how are you supposed to speak to every website owner? They had things along the way called persona, which is you dream up the website owner, and you dream up what they would say and how they would say it. And I'm like, how are you supposed to do all that stuff and get it right? Because this guy is going to say something that you are simply not expecting. And I can tell you that when people do this target profile interview, 100% of the time, they get a response from the client that they have no expectation about. They don't expect that to show up, and they're like, wow, that's why you bought that from me. So we start off with the target audience. So you have to know approximately where are you going, just for your own happiness, not because you have to. But let's say you went to a teacher, and then you said, like, what is the biggest problem that you deal with every day? And she goes, what drives me crazy is that I have to stick to this syllabus, but I also want to be extremely creative in getting across to the students. Okay. So now you have that terminology. A website owner that's being stuck out, cut out from their own website will have their own phraseology. And what we're really doing there is we're just interviewing them. And you go, so what is the problem? Can you describe that problem? And then they tell you how that problem unfolds. And you just write down your notes and you keep a recorder going. And then you say, well, what would be the solution as you see it? And then they tell you the solution as you see it, and then you've got your solution. And you go, if someone had to come to you and say, I have this, you have this problem and the solution, but what would be your objections? And they tell you, well, these would be my objections. And it goes on and on and on, all the way down the brain audit, just this way, where you're not sitting there at your desk trying to work out what are they thinking, because they've already thought about it. They already have the words to express it. And they always use the words that you're not expecting. I remember in 2006, we were doing a website workshop, and there was, bad economy in the US and stuff. And we were having this in the US. And my headline was typical of someone thinking about the economy, saying, the economy is not doing so well. How do you boost your business? And I spoke to the target profile, Molly, and Molly said to me, Sean, I'm really not interested in the economy. What I'm interested in is I have 500 people in my list. How do I create a semi-profitable website with just 500 people? And I took that and I put that on the headline, which is, what if you have just 500 people in your list? How do you create a semi-profitable? Notice she didn't even say profitable website. And that's nothing. There is no way I would write semi-profitable. There is no way.
But you turned her language around. Yeah.
No, so that's another thing. I didn't turn anything. I just transcribed it. But I just I just changed it from how do I to what if you. That's all I did. Yeah. But you could keep it. You could keep it as is. You could keep it as in quotes, and it would still work.
Okay. And how did that workshop go then? Did you attract a lot of Mollies?
That's exactly right. That is. You cannot believe how right you are on that score, because to this day, Molly and the rest of the people who came to 2006, about 5 or 6 or 7 of them meet to this day, 12, 13 years later. They physically go to a venue in the US, in somewhere around California, Oregon, or whatever, and they meet to this day. So you cannot believe how accurate you are on that statement.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to people? Because I have this conversation all the time when talking about identifying that ideal client and getting very specific on the problem they have and how you communicate with them. I always get, and this is an objection using your language, but I'm missing out on so many other people.
Yes, you are. That's the whole point. It's exactly what you're doing. You're supposed to be missing out on a lot of people. Simply, think of it like a dartboard. And what happens when you throw a dart on the board is you're trying to miss out most of the board, and you're trying to get, technically, that's the way we play it, at least, the bullseye. That's not the game itself, but all of when we go and see a dartboard, we're going for the bullseye. So the bullseye represents who you want to get, and the point is very simple. Supposing you get you hit the bullseye every time, you can go to the next circle around the bullseye, and then if you want, you can go to the circle beyond that. But if you just randomly throw anywhere on the board, the chances are that you have nothing to aim for, because there's a wall behind the board. You could hit the wall. What I'm saying is that often people never have to go past the bullseye. Now, there are people that have dreams of grandeur, and they want 10 million people, and you're talking about a completely different set of people. But the average business owner with the bullseye has more work than they know what to do with. But when you don't do that, when you don't target someone and you don't have their language, that pretty much guarantees that you're going to be working harder than you wanted to. Because the way I look at business is very simple. Business is there to give you a better life. It's not there to control you. And if you're constantly working, constantly doing stuff, you're not working in a job, but you're probably doing more work than you would if you were working in a job.
Yeah, that's right. Taking your analogy a step further, I think I was sort of thinking of when I play darts, I tend to think in terms of, well, if I miss the bullseye, at least let me get it on the board. And that's kind of actually not aiming at the bullseye, isn't it? And so I think that it's technically it's halfway between the just being scattergun and being really hyper-focused on that bullseye. But I think that's probably where a lot of businesses are.
So even if we look at the examples that we just did, like which is, say I have only 500 people on my list, and how do I get a semi-profitable business? I can tell you there are 1,000 people at least who would respond to that, if not 10,000 or 100,000 people who have only 500 people or who have only 200 people on their list, and they want to get a semi-profitable business. They're not even looking at a profitable business, like this big growth in business or whatever. If you look at people who are dealing with web developers, they have the frustration of not being able to manage their own website.
Yeah,
that's why we have so many
this morning.
That's why we have so many build it yourself websites sprouting up now, because of that very problem.
All right. Now, you alluded to having a business that allows you to live the life you want rather than the other way around, living your life to run a business. And you've called your podcast the 3-month vacation. So tell us the philosophy about, your take on those two things and how that comes together.
Okay. So when I got to New Zealand, one thing I realized was that back in India, I had a pretty good life. And yet when I got to New Zealand, it wasn't, somehow the frustration of losing business every time the cartoons went to someone else was just driving me crazy. So when we started out with marketing, I decided to do something that I was not able to do in India, which is take a decent amount of time off and get paid in advance. Because one of my biggest problems in India was that I wouldn't get paid for months on end, and some of them went for years on end. And it would drive me completely bananas. At 20, I was like high blood pressure and stuff like that. It just drove me mad, not because we needed the money, but because I felt I've earned this and they should pay me. And it was all of that stuff. Anyway, so those were the two things that I wanted to make sure. How do I get paid in advance for everything? And then the second thing was, how do I take time off? Now, the second one was much harder, because how do you take 3 months off? And why 3 months? Well, I didn't know. I just plucked something from the air. It was like, okay, we'll take 3 months off. We spend like 2/3 of our day or something like that awake, and then 1/3 of the day sleeping. So let's keep that kind of parameter. But it wasn't even that. It was just out of thin air. So the first time we went, and we started our business late 2002 as in Psychotactics. So we started out the business in 2000, but back then no one was selling anything online. And it was only by 2002 that we were able to sell anything online, because people were, for the first time, buying stuff online, at least from private websites. Maybe on Amazon and stuff they were already buying. And so by 2004, we decided to go to the US to do a workshop. We did the workshop, and then we took 3 months off. And it drove us insane. It was too long. There are things that you don't consider when you're going on holiday. And That is, there are 3 meals a day that you have to decide about. You have to plan for, and so that's 90 meals. So you have 270 meals to consider. There are hotels. There are so many things, and the point is, after a while, it's like eating ice cream.
Yeah.
You have so much ice cream, and then you're just putting scoop on scoop, and it's not making any difference to you. So we came back and we tried something else and something else, but eventually the goal was to take time off. And then if we got to the point where we go, okay, this is the final formula, which is we work for 12 weeks and then we take a month off, another 12 weeks and take a month off. And we've been doing that pretty consistently for the last 10 years now.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of things do you have in place to keep the business ticking along over that period of time? I mean, right. I imagine the membership website is, well, it doesn't run itself, but it certainly, the revenue is constant whether you're on vacation or not. So how do you have a team in place that kind of looks after that? And also with the other things, how do you keep those going?
We don't have any team at all. But what happened was that our membership website is quite different from a lot of membership websites to begin with. So a lot of websites, you go in, there's information there, you can access the information, download it, and then no one talks to you. Yeah. That's not 5000 BC. 5000 BC is like you ask 700 questions and you get 700 answers, and often they might be as long as 700 articles written specifically for your question. Like, for instance, the other day someone asked, why is it so important to work hard in a business? And that conversation has been going on for 2 weeks now. Article after article, she asks another question, you write another article. So there's a lot of this very specific, personalized, it's like going to a restaurant and ordering your kind of meal every single time that you enter 5000 BC. So you would think, well, the expectation is so high, how are you leaving them alone for 3 months? And that's the whole point. The point is that clients know that you put in so much that you deserve your break. And I realized this when we got married, because every time I would tell a client I'm going on vacation, they would go, oh no, who's going to do our work and stuff. And the moment I said we're going on a honeymoon, they were like, oh, have a good time, right? So I realized that the clients don't necessarily grudge you your happiness if they see a good reason for it. Yeah. And so while we're around, I'm in 5000 BC almost all the time. If we're doing a course, 25 people generate close to 15,000 posts in 3 months. 15,000, it's almost 1,000 posts a week. So this is just from 25 people. So this is very intense in the sense that you can just milk it. If you use the system, you can just use it and you get the answers and stuff. And then it's like, I need a break. You need a break too. But I tried to get into 5000 BC very early when I was on holiday, and they threw me out. They said, you're on holiday. Well, how are we supposed to? Yeah. So we have someone checking our email, but our business has largely gone from. So what I look at is a business is built into consulting, training, and leverage. And our business is now very highly leveraged in the sense a lot of them are just, downloads and stuff. And then there's training, which is courses. The courses end before we leave on holiday. And things like 5000 BC, we have cave elves. We have people within our clients who we ask to help. We ask them to help the other clients, and they volunteer. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's good when you've got a really good community like that. But the whole idea that you just outlined for 5000 BC, it's in a way, to me, that's a metaphor for the whole exercise of understanding your ideal customer that you outlined earlier.
Yeah, and we are very clear about it. It's be kind, be helpful, or be gone. And I think now that's officially the motto for New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
After what's happened in the last week, there is an enormous amount of kindness and compassion and stuff from this country. And I mean, that's something that we had in very early, which is be kind, be helpful, or be gone. And all the people, they self eject in a way. The people that just want stuff, they don't show up at all. In the beginning, I used to be a little annoyed. I would go, hey, this Dan Kennedy is so rude and he gets all these people. And then somewhere along the line, I realized that Dan Kennedy was taking care of all the rude people. And I didn't have to deal with people like that. He was a very smart guy, but he has his own way of dealing with stuff. And I realized that other marketers and our competition, the hype merchants and all of them, they all provide a service to you by taking away the customers that you don't want, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's just like you don't have to pay them. They just put up a site that's full of hype, and all the people who are interested in getting rich quick or don't understand that it takes time and effort to build a business, they all go there in droves. I mean, I've been in Australia. I went to this World Internet Summit once, and it was full of this kind of hype. And I noticed that everyone there, there was a woman there who said, I've been to this thing to like my 6th seminar in a row, and they were all like $2,000. I'm going, but how are you getting any of this money back? And she goes, I don't know. And I realized, imagine I had to deal with this kind of person on a day-to-day basis. I would go insane.
Yeah. Well, so, I know you're very strong about the hype and how that's very manipulative and not in the interests of the client. And I absolutely agree with you there. But I love the reframe that these people serve a really useful purpose. They take
and free. Yeah, right. You don't have to pay them.
They take away the clients that you don't want. It's lovely. And I also heard in one of your podcasts that you've got another book plan coming out soon.
Yep. That book has been circling the airport for 10 years now. It's called Suddenly Talented, and it's about talent. So it's either going to be one book or 3 books. I had planned to do that from January to April, and I got stuck in fixing another course. The reason we were doing this course in Munich, the Info Products course, and the reason why I chose that was I told my wife, look, we've done this course in person thrice before, and so all the slides are ready, all the notes are ready, and I don't have to do anything. And she agreed with me. And then in January, I look at the slides and I go, I hate these slides. And I've been working on it since then, and I've got a couple of weeks to go. But this is just me. I wouldn't say I get bored. I would say I've moved along, and I couldn't bear standing there for 3 days doing what I did back in 2015 or 2016 or whichever year. So all of our courses and products are treated like software, and that is, they were good for one point in time, and now they have to get a version 2 and a version 3, and so that's what's taken the last couple of months, and that's why I didn't finish anything. Didn't finish what I set out to do, but when we get back.
Yeah. And of course, the Brain Audit is in, version 3 as well?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, it's, I guess it's a natural progression, isn't it? If you're in touch with your customers and you're learning more about them as things move on, and also if it's the same customers returning to workshops, so they've now moved on as well, so that they're looking for information that's up to date with whatever's happened in the world.
That's exactly
and also
not so much technology. Not so much technology. They're looking at how to the psychology, or they're not looking so much at technology. But your point was completely accurate in the sense that we have. So, for instance, in Munich, we sold that out almost 5 or 6 months ago, and you probably never saw it anywhere. As in, I mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but about 50 to 60%, maybe more, got sold out from just the WhatsApp group, and this is the group that attended the last workshop. So say about 16 people attended the last workshop, and we have a limit because we want them to work, not listen to me.
Yeah.
And about, I don't know, 8 to 10 people from those 16 people signed up right away. So we didn't have to do much to sell the remaining 6 seats. We have this case for, so a lot of people on the outside, it looks a little hypey because we'll release a course or something, and then 20 minutes later it's sold out, or sometimes 24 hours later it's sold out, and they think, oh, there's some gimmick here, and the gimmick is we did a good job last time.
Yeah.
That's the gimmick. It's like, we served you a great meal last time, now we don't have to do any selling. So
well, I love the idea of linking all these things to the customer journey, and part of that is refreshing the information because the customers are further along in their journey.
Yeah.
And also the idea of, part of the whole marketing exercise to me is then delivering an exceptional outcome to position clients that they want to give you those testimonials that you talked about, because then you get to that point of things are selling out so fast there, because there's a saying in the bakery world, which you're no doubt familiar with, selling like hotcakes, and it's like, well, if it tasted really good last time, here they are, fresh off the hot plate, so people will queue up and get them, and they'll be gone.
But the customer also upgrades their expectations. So, for instance, if I wrote a book like I did back in, even 2015 or 2014, I would get people complaining because they expect there is so much that I've learned about Keynote, which is the Mac software, the presentation software, just in these last 2 months, so much stuff. And I've implemented it in the presentation. And so the customer's expectation is like, wow, I got entertained at this slide and that slide and that slide, and I learned so much. And the next time, if I go back to the presentation from 2014, they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
Because it's like drinking when we got to New Zealand, I used to love instant coffee, and I hate all these baristas for it now, because I could go to any place, pick up a Nescafe, put some milk. I love to put cold milk rather than hot, and I could have a great coffee, and I would enjoy myself. And now I can't do that anymore, because I got better, and I mean my taste buds improved all along, to the point where I'm disgusted if the coffee is like, there's little bitterness, and what do you call this, obnoxious coffee snob? That's me today. It's like so irritating.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true. We develop a taste for things, and then our expectations are higher.
Yeah. And it's good to have clients like that, because then they go to other places and they get really frustrated, so they come right back. So.
And also the other thing is they hold you. I find they hold me to account, and I'm a lifelong learner, and I love learning new things and trying out new things. So if ever I get a little bit lazy, well, then I've got the clients there with their expectations, and their expectations are growing, so I've got to grow to keep up.
Yep. That's right.
All right. Well, this is fascinating, Sean. I'm really enjoying this, but I'm aware of the time, so I think we should move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's a series of 5 questions designed to help our audience, who are primarily innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So hopefully you'll give us some very high-level, quick answers that will inspire people to go away and do something awesome today. So what's the number one thing you think anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
I think it's feedback. Feedback. So there's a difference between testimonial and feedback. And what people look for are testimonials. They look for pats on the back. That's nice. What you need is for people to go and poke you in the ribs and go, "You're too fat," right? And you go, "I don't like that, but that's precisely what I need to fix." I don't think there's anything better or faster to improve or innovate than feedback. Nothing that I know of.
That's great advice, and I like that you pointed out clearly the feedback, that specific feedback, something that you can look at and say, "Well, I could do something about that."
Yeah, I would write a book on feedback. It's such a lot to write on feedback. You'll be surprised. Yeah.
All right. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Once again, it's a conversation. So that's why we have 5000 BC, because people, they start talking and then suddenly, like for instance, this book called Suddenly Talented, it wasn't my idea. I did a whole presentation and then Simon came back and he said, "Hey, on slides 10 or 12, you have this thing called Suddenly Talented. That would be so cool as the name of a book." So there you go. It's like, if you are willing to not shut down your email, if you're willing to continue having, we have a forum, we have multiple forums and courses and stuff. We get so much feedback, but the point is, feedback is one thing, conversation is another thing, and conversation just keeps going, and it goes off like in all different directions, and suddenly someone points out something or you figure out something, and you can't buy that. You can't plan for it. You can't do anything, but it's like meeting someone, the love of your life. It's not like you go, "Okay, let me just look at this app and see whether we find something." No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I've certainly had that experience a few times where I've made almost a throwaway comment, not even well thought out, and somebody comes back and says, "That would make a great title." One of them was a podcast title, which I've started, but I've kind of shelved at the moment for other reasons. But yeah, so great advice. All right. Well, what's one of the resources you use most often?
As in technology?
Well, it could be technology, or it could be something else. So some people say they like to run every morning, or other people like to say they meditate.
I use my phone. I use my phone for everything. I love to take. I take, I don't know, about 30 photographs a day.
That's right. I did hear you talk about photography on one podcast. So you're a keen photographer.
Yes, I travel with 3 cameras, much to the annoyance of my wife. And I'll probably take 3,000 pictures on this trip. So I take pictures with it. I use an app called Just Record, which enables me to record my voice and also transcribe it. I use it as a teleprompter. So yeah, the phone is probably the best resource I have, but what's within the phone is probably the kind of stuff that needs to be kind of described, which would take too long, I guess.
Yeah, I'm always amazed these days that we have these gadgets that can do so much in our pockets now, and even like photography. We can probably have another conversation over that.
Yeah, I would say keeping on top of the technology is probably the best resource I have. It's for years I would say, but I already have a computer, but I already have an iPhone, but I already have this. And I know it sounds very overly capitalistic, but there's a reason why they put out that new stuff. And in many cases, it is dramatically better than what I had. I mean, I would never go to an iPhone 6, for instance. I don't know what I would do with it compared with what I have right now. So I would say the resources keep on top of the technology, because it's very easy to fall behind, and you just don't get the benefits of older technology. Is just worse because it's old.
Yeah. All right, that's great advice. What's the best way, to keep a project on track?
Selling it in advance. That's the only way I know.
Paid for in advance.
Yeah. You sell it in advance, and then the client, just on the date itself or close to the date, will go, so is that ready or what? It's like it's like dinner. It's like you pre-sold dinner, and then your guests show up. What are you going to tell them? You have to do something. So all the projects I haven't finished have been my idea. Have been like, okay, I'm going to do this wonderful series of books on talent. Well, it's been 10 years. I'm going to do this, these stock cartoons. It's also been 10 years. But the moment I put it on a sales page and one person buys it, I'm dead. That's it. That's how it goes on, that's how it works.
Yeah. And you've got, you're accountable then, and your reputation depends on delivering it.
Oh, no, it's just, I'm not so much the reputation and stuff. It's just that now I have something to live for.
Okay, yeah. So a motivation thing. All right, so we've touched on this a little bit, and you certainly have a section, one of the bags, I think, in the book talking about uniqueness. So what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Well, I would say what I would say is that there are you need at first to just state what you think is unique about you. So it's and you say it often enough. So for instance, for the podcast, we didn't have a uniqueness for a long time. We would just say something, and no one says it back to us. And so when you don't get that echo back, you know that you don't have a uniqueness. Everyone needs to say the same thing. So if you ask people, what is unique about the article writing course? And they say it's baby tough. And you go, what do you mean by that? And then they explain to you that there is, when you get a cat, you don't have to look after the cat so much. And if you have a dog, you have to look after it quite a bit. But if you have a baby, you get no sleep for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's that tough. and everybody says that. And as a result, you get clients who are going to put up with no sleep for 3 months. And so before we had that uniqueness for the article writing course, it was just an article writing course. But now it's the only baby tough course in the world that's selling it as the toughest writing course in the world. So it's a huge difference. It was the same thing for the podcast. So to answer your question, if you want to get your uniqueness, define what other people do, your competition does, and then define what you do. Both of them are very crucial. So if you say other article writing courses promise that you will be able to write very quickly and very whatever, with great ease, and we say that this article writing course is baby tough, you're going to have to slog for 3 months to get there. And you would think you would turn everybody off. No, it's the opposite. But it doesn't have to be just selling toughness. With the podcast, we just started announcing that, other people's podcasts makes you feel jittery and feeling out of, as if you're falling behind. And the 3-month vacation calms you down and makes you feel in control. And if I have to say that often enough. I have to say that like 200 times, and then eventually everyone will say the same thing.
Yeah. And again, what I like about that is it speaks to the ideal client in some way, and particularly the example of the copywriting course, where the courses that promise, okay, we will turn you into a brilliant copywriter in 4 hours or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, they might, perhaps they have a system of here's how to do it. Perhaps they have some unique tricks that people can become good copywriters, but at the end of the day, the person learning has to still put in the effort to learn the skills and practice the skills. And the danger I see in those kind of courses is it attracts people that aren't prepared to put in the work and the effort and the practice. And so then they go away disappointed because they don't get the result. Whereas in your case, the people that come in know right from the beginning that, okay, I'm going to have to roll up my sleeves here. I'm not going to get any sleep for 3 months. I'm going to have to work really hard, but at the end of it, I'm going to be a good copywriter.
Yep, and as a result, we don't give a money back guarantee on any courses or workshops. So the uniqueness of Psychotactics courses or workshops is that other people, they guarantee you they'll guarantee your money back, but they don't guarantee results. And we don't give money back, but we guarantee results. And immediately people go, yep, that's exactly what I want. I don't want my money. I already had my money before I gave it to you. Why would I want it back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the money back really, I mean, it's okay, the investment didn't pay off, so the money back is kind of a consolation prize, but it's not the result you wanted.
No, I mean, you don't buy a coffee to get your money back.
Yeah, that's
you buy
right.
a coffee to get a great coffee.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks, Sean. This has been really great. So where can people find out more about the Psychotactics and 5000 BC and perhaps even reach out and get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to psychotactics.com, and it's psychotactics.com/xbrain, like X, the letter X, BRAIN, and they'll even get a little snippet, a little report of the Brain Audit, so that they can read a bit more about that. So that's just psychotactics.com/xbrain.
Okay, we'll have a link to that in the show notes then. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to a business owner who wants to be a leader in their field and in innovation?
It's a long road. It's a very, very long road. And if you think that it's going to happen tomorrow, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you realize, okay, now I'm starting to learn something.
Yeah, that's really good advice, and it's probably advice that a lot of people won't give, and that a lot of people don't want to hear either.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, there's a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction comes from the journey.
Yeah, and the people, sometimes I will go, tell my wife, I thought of this, and she said, yep, I told you that 10 years ago. So there you go.
So listen to your wife as well.
Sparingly.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay, and lastly, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast, and why?
Oh, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights so generously today, Sean. I've really enjoyed this, and I've loved the metaphors that you've shared with us. I love the cartoons on all your websites, and the book is fabulous. I've only had one reading of it so far, so I know you recommend that we read it at least 3 times, so I'll be back to the beginning shortly. And again, thanks for coming on the podcast, and all the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that engaging and inspiring conversation with Sean, and, like me, learned from what he shared. What I particularly liked were Sean's structure of his Brain Audit marketing system, with the steps of qualifying, risk, and uniqueness, which can be used for a web page, a sales brochure, a presentation, even a webinar. It's a really useful framework. I'd love to know what you took away from Sean's episode. Leave a comment below the blog post, which can be found at innovabiz.co/Sean D Souza. That is SEANDSOUZA. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/ Sean D Souza. You'll also find contact information there for getting in touch with Sean, as well as links to the Psychotactics website, the 3-month vacation podcast, as well as the other resources we spoke about in our conversation. Sean suggested we interview Leanne Hughes of First Time Facilitator on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So Leanne, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Sean D Souza. Remember to visit innovabiz.co/VIP to access the Transformational Marketing Hub and all its free and exceptionally useful information to help you transform your marketing. Also, check out our Tales of Marketing Transformation show at talesofmarketingtransformation.com, where each episode will provide one valuable message to guide you on your journey of marketing transformation. Tune in again next week to the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we've got more fantastic guests lined up, including Glenn Fisher of The Art of the Click and Zach Marino and Rockwell Felder of Squadcast. Stay connected. Subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you'll make sure you'll never miss another episode. Head on over to innovabiz.co/subscribe. We'd also love you to leave us a review, because what you think matters to us. Take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, then share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic Facebook community at the Tales of Marketing Transformation Facebook group. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMA. It's free to join. I hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.